Hey YouTube, Repo Man 64. Wow, still sick from this. It's been rough. I just started to be able to eat yesterday. Before that, I couldn't eat much of anything. Uh, Lost a bunch of weight, skinny again. Doesn't look good when you get older and you lose weight. Um, but it's okay. I'm feeling better. I'm finally able to eat again. This costs 10 pounds, but I probably could have used losing 10 pounds. My shirts are just hanging off me now. Anyway, I wanted to get into the timeline again and discuss what I see coming up next. As you know, according to the timeline, Shavuot ended yesterday on the timeline that I've built. Um, there are segments throughout the year of, and if I'm sniffling and everything, I apologize. I'm still a little stuffed up from this. You'll notice there are segments of things that happen, and then it goes quiet, and then it begins to happen again. And the calendar we're looking at, it's not the calendar I want to look at, but it's the calendar I believe God is looking at. And I'm going to show you some more evidence, a lot more evidence as to why I think he's using calendar number 5. Now, God is God. God can use whatever calendar he wants. These calendars are all 5 calendars that I can find that are used by everyone, from the Creator's calendar to the Enoch timeline, which is the Essene timeline, to the first sliver of the moon in Aries, to the Jewish calendar that they're using, which is line number 3, the first sliver of the moon after the equinox. There's so many calendars. I've just put them all on here so we can look at them. And let's go through that real quick. All right, so I wrote this down here so you could see. The new month does not, never will, I can't see any evidence anywhere in the Bible to start a new month on a new moon. I can't find it. I can find a little bit of an indication of it to start the year on the first sliver of the moon. You find that in Leviticus. And if we start the year on the first sliver of the moon, which again, I did not want to do that because Enoch warns not to use the moon. You bring in the season 10 days too soon when you do that. But we cannot start each month on a new moon, but perhaps God is saying we could start the year on the first sliver of the moon after the sun reaches Aries, which is May 2nd. That is the first day. That's Nisan 1. The dates up there at the top in the box, Nisan 1, Nisan 4, all those dates are in the Bible. Those are the dates. Now, which calendar we assign it to is what we're working on, trying to figure it out. Line number 1 is the equinox. This is the Essene calendar, the Enoch calendar. It starts every year on March 17th. Line number 2 is the equinox. This is the moment the sun crosses over the equator. I cannot find a single event that happens on that timeline. Line number 3 is the Jewish calendar. They start their year on the first sliver of the moon after the equinox, which this year happened April the 3rd. The problem with April the 3rd is if you begin the year on April the 3rd, then their Sabbath, their Passover, does not land on, if you add 14 days, because it would be the 14th day. If April the 3rd were the 1st, it would be the 17th. But they're calling the Passover on the 15th or 14th, I believe. And so they start their year on April the 1st. They've ignored the first sliver of the moon. They did not spot the first sliver of the moon on April the 1st. They've ignored that and gone ahead and used it because they're trying to line up the Sabbath, and you can't do that. These dates that we use do not line up, never will. You won't see, I mean, aside from the dates on here, you won't see me using the Gregorian calendar. And the only reason it's on here is so we know where we're at. Then the Creator's calendar uses the first full moon after the equinox. And then finally, the calendar that is spoken of in Leviticus starts the year when the first sliver of the moon is in Aries. So I've gone ahead and gone down here. Jesus on the cross, Nisan 14. We all know that. That is a fact. Which calendar should we use? The first calendar, the Enoch timeline. The third calendar, the Jewish. The fourth timeline, the Creator's calendar, or the fifth one, the first sliver of the moon after the sun reaches Aries. And what we find is an event that took place on May the 16th, line number 5, Nisan 14, and that was a blood moon. The blood moon could have taken place anywhere. It could have taken place on May 18th, and it wouldn't have fit. It could have taken place on May 14th, and it wouldn't have fit, but it didn't. It landed right squarely on May 16th, 1516. It's always a day. Israel's always a day ahead of us, so we stay right on. But May 16th is when this blood moon occurred here in the United States. It began on May 15th, but it was already May 16th in Israel. So that's the 14th day of the year. Each month, instead of starting it on a new moon or a sliver of a moon, we start the year on the first sliver. Based on what I'm seeing, God is definitely using timeline number 5 right now. There are 47 days difference between the Enoch timeline and the line number 1 and line number 5. There's 47 days difference, and 47 is a huge number in the Bible. You have the 7 days Jesus rose, went to heaven, and returned to Thomas in the upper room. And then God walked with man for 40 days. We know Jesus was not walking with the disciples between the period of time that he rose and the period of time that he meets Thomas in the upper room, because the Bible records that they were up there hiding. If they're walking with their king, they are not hiding. Jesus was not walking with them for those 7 days. Jesus returned on the same day he rose, which would be the 8th day, 7 days later, on Nisan 24. That is a fact. Then he walked with man for 40 days. So we go on down here. Jesus ascends. He walked with them for 40 days and he ascended. He did that on the 63rd day of the year. If you do simple math, I don't get into the adding this and I know the Bible says to count your 7 weeks of 7 and then count 50 days, and I've done that. I've put that on here as well, and it does match. I mean, Jesus rises 7 days later. He meets Thomas in the upper room. He walks with them for 40 days. He ascends in their sight, and 3 days later is Shavuot. That just happened yesterday. Shavuot is the 66th day of the year, Nisan 6. I'm sorry, Sivan 6. I apologize. Sivan 6. So the first month here, Nisan, has 30 days. The second month of Iyar has 30 days, and Sivan has 31. So you have 60 days, and then 6 days of Sivan, 66th day. There are 66 books in the Bible. 6 is the number of man. On July 6th, 7th is when Shavuot happens. Now, Abraham is 75. You can see up here. Abraham is 75 at Canaan. He was born in 1948 BC. That is the third month and the 15th day. The 15th day of the third month, Sivan 15. That is the 75th day of the year. That's a little crumb, a little evidence that this is the correct date right here. Down at the bottom, July 16th. So I am looking next at July 15th, 16th. The 153, the 15th and third month, 75th day of the year. Abraham, in fact, was 75, Canaan. So that's just a few days away. And then we're going to continue on. We're always going to look. We're going to continue to look. That's what we do. We continue to look. Look, the world, and some people get in here and make comments and go, when are you going to give up? I'm never going to give up. And the reason is because the world gave up. The world is not watching. Look around you. Just go to the store. I was at where was I at? My brain doesn't work very well with being this sick lately. Where was I? Oh, I was at the DMV. I had an issue with registration on one of my company vehicles, and I went in there, and she asked me, "Do you want the tag for 1 year or two?" I said, "Oh, just 1 year because I think Jesus is coming back and taking us out of here before 2 years. I won't need that tag to last more than a year." Then she laughed. I'm like, "Have you heard that before?" She's like, "Oh yeah, I've heard that." I'm like, "Really?" So there's a lot of Christians talking about that. She's like, "Yeah, there it actually is a conversation that comes up." And I'm like, "Are you saved? Are you ready for this event?" She's like, "I am so ready. I'm so tired of everything going around." So it shocked me because that's a very rare thing for me to hear from somebody. And if you go anywhere and you talk about Jesus or any of these things that we talk about, nobody knows. Nobody knows. I could ask anybody right now what day of the year it is. They're never going to tell me that it's the 67th day of the year, that it is Sivan 7. They're never going to say that because they have not learned to number their days. They haven't even. So once you're a Christian, once you believe, now your job is to learn to number your days, to try to figure out when this stuff is occurring. And there's so many wonderful, YouTubers on here. I've been watching. Well, I've been sick, so I've been watching a lot of stuff lately, and they're doing fantastic jobs. And each one has a different viewpoint, a different way of looking at things, and it's awesome. It's awesome. All of them. There's all of them are fantastic. If they say something contrary to the Bible, I quit following. But if they're trying to figure something out, and for the most part, me personally, very patient with watchers trying to figure things out and understand, and make comments in their thing, and in their YouTube, and try to get them to look at this point or that point. But we're all learning. But that's a beautiful thing. It is a beautiful thing because as we're attempting to learn and go forward, we're becoming more intimate. We're in the Bible. We're researching the Bible. We're trying to figure this stuff out. I can promise you, you can walk up to somebody who's been in the church for 30 years. They love Jesus. They do not know half of what you know as far as when he went to the cross, all these dates that are coming up, and we're seeing go by. Things are going on around everywhere. I'm going to show you a couple things which really floored me here in the pictures, but things are going on that you can't deny unless you have no intimacy with Jesus. If you don't, then you just won't know. This will go right past you. This rapture is an last moment snatching away before it kills us, is what it is. It is a speeding train coming at a child and a father diving across the track to pull him out of the way. That's what this is, this snatching away. Excuse me. We are going to be caught away. We won't go through all these things. And you can identify us by how hard we research this and try to figure this out. So let me get back to the pictures. So right now, the date is Sivan 7. It is the 67th day of the year. We're going to continue on forward. I could not determine yet if we're supposed to count 50 days after Shavuot. The Bible clearly says you come to a date of Shavuot, you go to the following Sabbath, and then you count out 50 days. Worst case scenario is that Shavuot would fall on a Sunday. The next Sabbath would be Saturday, 6 days away. So what I've done is I put the 50 days in here, and then I added with a question mark those 6 days. So Pentecost could be either Tammuz 26, which is the 117th day of the year. And if we're using timeline number 5, that would be August the 26th. Or it could be in Av 2, if you put those 6 days in there, which would land on September the 2nd. Tisha B'Av is what several are beginning to look at. Again, we've gone through this entire, and we're on line number 5. We're on calendar number 5. Tisha B'Av will fall on September the 9th. It's the 130th day of the year. The 9th of Av. It's real simple. I mean, so simple. Over here, you have Nisan, Iyar, Sivan, Tammuz. Those 4 months add up to 121 days. The 9th of Av is the 9th day of Av. You add 9 to the 121, and it's 130. There are 130 days. If you come back here and try to figure out which calendar God is using, and I'm going to show you some more evidence as to why I think he's using calendar number 5, you start your year on May 2nd, which would be Nisan 1, and you count forward 130 days, and this is where you land. Tisha B'Av, the day that both temples in the past. I looked at this last year, was pretty excited about it, but I didn't have the correct number. I didn't understand how the calendars worked. But this year will fall on September the 9th, the 130th day of the year, the 9th of Av. It's very simple to add that up. So let's see here. Let's go on here. This is the full time. I want you to notice in here, this is what we just went through, these 53 days from the cross to Shavuot. I've always had this date here. I've had this date. I built this timeline a year ago. Sivan 6, I've always known as Shavuot. Always known that. This grouping here from the new year all the way to Sivan 6, Shavuot, is a lot of things going on, a ton of things that are going on. Back then, I'm still using, as you can see, this is the old one, so I'm still using the Enoch timeline. But down here for Shavuot, you see I wrote July 7th on it. So now we go into a period of time where nothing much is going on. It's about 2 months. Nothing much going on up until we get to Tisha B'Av. And it's a quiet, it's supposed to be the most celebrated, right? It's the most feared day, Tisha B'Av, and the most celebrated day, Tu B'Av. But it lands right in the middle of nothingness. Nothingness. You have the 4th, 5th, 6th month of nothing. 1, 2, 3, 4. Nothingness going on, or 3, sorry. Until you get over here, and it all starts up again. This is the fall feast. Tishri 1 would be the New Year, Feast of Trumpets, right there. September 15th. The problem is that we're on the 5th timeline, and the 5th timeline will put November the 1st as the Feast of Trumpets. It would be 182 days into the year. Again, not much going on. It's awful quiet except for Tisha B'Av, and then all of a sudden it kicks off again through the period of the flood. The flood, the 2nd month and the 17th day, I talked about this quite a bit last year, is not the 2nd month of our current timeline. This 2nd month was Tishri, because God changed the time, changed the calendar with Moses. This was the head of the year. The Jews are still recognizing this as the head of the year. Even though God changed the head of the year to Nisan, this was the head of the year. And this is where everything began, Feast of Trumpets. And when you line everything up exactly with these 30, 30, 31, 30, 30, 31, you wind up with Tishri over here, the head of the year before the flood. And so the 2nd month and the 17th day, when the flood began, would be Heshvan 17, October 31st. If we're using the 5th timeline, you add 47 days to that. I know that gets confusing. I found this on Facebook. I liked it. It said a Christian and a non-believer was walking down a road when Satan appeared before them. The non-believer hid behind the Christian and said, "Protect me, he's after me." But the Christian smiled and said, "No, it's me he's after. He already has you. You wonder why. You wonder why you're under attack. You wonder why I caught this. I've never taken that. People are asking me, have you taken the thing? I'm like, no, I I haven't taken that thing. No, of course not. So, and of course I know so many people. They're like, well, if you'd taken it, it wouldn't have lasted as long as it did on you. I didn't even go to the doctor for it. I just pretty much vegetated in my bed. It was something else. But thank God I got through it. I finally got my appetite back yesterday. And so the point is that we're under attack, and you sit there and you go, I believe in God. Why isn't God doing this for me? That's not how this world works. It's not how this world works at all. It doesn't work like that. We're under attack because of who we are. They're not under attack, and they're doing good. They're doing fine. And it's not because God is protecting them or loves them or not protecting us and doesn't love us. It has nothing to do with that. This is Satan's world. Satan's in charge, and he's after us. And so you just stand strong and hold firm. That was a rough cold. I didn't know if I wanted to make it through. It was rough, but here I am, sniffly and everything else. But here I am. Look at my face, all that weight I lost. Anyway, let me get back to this. I don't want to whine too much about it. Here we are. Here we are. This is what we're looking forward to. All those people who are not being tempted, tested, or brought to harm currently, who are walking through the world thinking everything is normal and loving their lives and planning everything that they're planning because their lives are the most important thing to them, this is where they will not be. This is where we will be. So just hang in there. Don't ask why. Go through it because you're being tested. And this is where we're going to be sitting, right there. Let's see here. What do we have? I just wanted to show you that they did call the first of the year on April the 1st and April the 2nd and April the 1st instead of April the 3rd when the moon was actually spotted. So the Jewish calendar is 2 days too soon. Now I want to point out all the events that are going on, and there's more than this, but I want you to take note, and I think nobody is taking note as to what day these things are happening. July 5th. July 5th is Ascension Day. Jesus ascended on July 5th, 2,000 years ago. We have green skies up here in South Dakota, Iowa, Nebraska, and Minnesota on July 5th. Remember, 4th, 5th is the same because of the time difference between us and Israel. Look at this. Lightning struck this obelisk that's been standing for, what is that? It's 450 years? 430 years? 450 years. It's been standing. Lightning struck it. When did lightning strike it? On July 7th, Shavuot. I keep questioning, God, are you really using timeline number 5? The furthest timeline, the timeline that makes us wait to the very last moment. Is that the one you're using? And this stuff keeps coming up. July 7th, Shavuot. God destroys this obelisk with a lightning strike after it's been standing for 450 years, and it's a satanic monument. Stephen Ben Noon's wife went to, I watched this video, here's Georgia Guidestones so you can watch it yourself. His wife went to the Georgia Guidestones and prayed that God would take it down. Now, on his headline here, he calls destroyed by a missile, but I don't think it was destroyed by a missile. If it was destroyed by a missile, we would see that missile coming in that video that they have. Nobody planted explosives around it because they don't see anyone around it before it gets destroyed. I think it's very possible that God sent down lightning from heaven and destroyed this thing. Stephen Ben-Noon's wife was out here exactly 30 days prior to this, praying that God would destroy the Georgia Guidestones. And here we are, 30 days later, and it's destroyed. And guess what day it was destroyed on? July the 6th, which lands directly between July the 4th and July the 7th, which is Jesus ascending and Shavuot. What timeline is God using? If this stuff was happening 47 days earlier on a different timeline, on the timeline I wish it was on, then I would see those dates appearing on the timeline. But I don't. Everything keeps popping up right here between July 4th and July 7th, Jesus ascending and Shavuot. We have just gone through that, and I want you to notice something here as well. 47 days from, let's see, right here, the 66th day of the year, 47 days from May 22nd to July 7th, right? There are 47 days from when Jesus rose to when Jesus ascended. There's an idea that's bouncing around in my head that God could jump to the first calendar at any time. Those 47 days are his days. Those are the days he spent here after he rose, after he won. He won. That was it. He won. He rose. He defeated death. He came back up. He finished paying for the sins of the world. It is over. He said that on the cross. It is finished 3 days prior to that. But we go out these days to Shavuot, and we wind up on day 66. So let me see here. Let me get back to where I was. Stephen Ben-Noon, Georgia Guidestones. The 9th of Av for the Jews is August the 5th. August the 5th. Remember that. Remember, they started their year 2 days early to try to match that up. Line number 3 is the Jewish timeline. Tisha B'Av should fall on August the 11th if you start the year where you're supposed to. And if you start the year 2 days early like they did, it should be on August the 9th. But they're calling it August the 5th. They are literally 6 days too soon. They're jumbling the calendar around to suit the days that they want things to land on, and that simply is not correct at all. So August the 11th is when Tisha B'Av should be landing for the Jews, and again, they're just jumbling everything around. Tisha B'Av, August the 5th. So let's see here. Oh, I was showing you it's 130 days from May 2nd to September 9th. Okay, here's a report on the Sphinx. Same thing. It happens right in this period of time between Ascension and Shavuot. Again, you can go watch this guy right here, the 1111 sign. I like his YouTube. He's very good, and he explains why he knows that this event took place. And it's because they scrubbed the internet of it. They scrubbed the entire internet. These people go out to this statue of the Sphinx every day and take pictures. Tourists nonstop. Nobody has ever, and they're trying to claim that it was shadows or this or that, but everybody knows for the past, 4,000 years, they've never seen this. And there is and he'll tell you, Stan over at the 1111 sign will tell you that when there is a, how do you call, like a, I'm not even going to think of the name of it, folk's tale, maybe? An old wives' tale of when the Sphinx were to close its eyes, that means the end is here. And so go watch his video. He did a very good job on that. Did you know, and he'll tell you, Stan will tell you, the Sphinx is exactly 66 feet tall. The Bible has 66 books. It is 20.22 meters, 2022. Something else pointing to the year 2022. None of this stuff is by accident. None of it is by chance. That's what the Sphinx normally looks like with its eyes open. That's what it looked like the day they took pictures. And they found the people over in Egypt that said it was the craziest thing. Its eyes were closed. And guess what date? Its eyes were closed. This was published on the 19th, but the date is May the 15th. We have the blood moon when Jesus goes to the cross on May the 16th, May the 15th. You have the time difference between there and here. The Sphinx closes its eyes. More and more things are pointing to this year right here that we're in constantly. You can't ignore the signs. You can't ignore the signs that are right in front of you. Don't want to use timeline number 5, but that seems to be the timeline being used. But then there's just something telling me that those 47 days that Jesus spent walking, though he went to heaven for 7 and then came back and walked for 40 days before he ascended, something's telling me that that's his time and he can take it any time he wants. So we might be switching back to the first timeline, the Essene calendar, at any moment. And the way we're going to know that is as these events come up. For example, if he were to switch back right now, Tisha B'Av would actually land on July 25th on timeline number 1. Let me show you. This is Tisha B'Av. It won't happen until September the 9th, day 130 of the year. But if God should decide to take those 47 days, that would be the first timeline. That would be July 25th, which is not too far from now. How would we know that he switched calendars? Well, things will begin to happen on those dates. So, it is now July the 9th. If we're going to say, well, I wonder if he'll switch to the other calendar, on July the 11th, something will happen, something major that we can see. If, I'm just saying. So you have July the 11th for Pentecost. Perhaps Pentecost, again, I have a question mark because I'm not 100% sure yet. I'm still working on it. July the 18th, something happens. Tisha B'Av, July the 25th, something major could happen, like maybe a rapture. Or he could wait those 47 days until September the 9th. So, I don't know. Just continuing to fill out the timeline. As I hear things and people say dates and stuff, I'm going to continue to add them to this. And all I do is just tape another piece of paper together. Yep, it gets really long. And continue to add the dates as I go down. If you find a date in the Bible, let me know because I'll put it on here, and then I can decipher which, or put all 5 calendars to that date, and we have a margin of error of 47 days. So anyway, RepoMan64, like, comment, share, and subscribe, and go to a quiet place by yourself. Nobody needs to know, and you don't need to tell anybody, and accept the Lord into your heart. We are, in fact, out of time. When you're out somewhere, I'll tell you this, when you're out somewhere, do not fail to mention how close we are to the end. And you can do it in a fun way. It doesn't have to be, we're all going to die, so you don't have to do it like that. You just do it in a fun way. Jesus is supposed to be coming back. I can hardly wait till he does. Me personally, the way I am, and the stuff I've been through in my life, I can hardly wait till he's in charge because of how his government is going to function. It is going to be incredible. It is going to be perfect. There's not going to be any theft, lying. There's not going to be any quotas to meet. Taxes will be fair. Everything will be fair and correct. There'll be nothing that anybody could possibly complain about except for those who could be tempted by the devil one last time at the end. Otherwise, it'll be perfect in every way. And no sneaky stuff going on. You run a business, and it'll run perfectly because you'll do the right thing every single day. So anyway, bring it up to people. Get them prepared. Get them to look into it. Tell them about your favorite YouTuber, anybody, and get them to begin to watch. And that's the intimacy that we have with Jesus. I heard somebody say on, I don't remember if it was a YouTube video or on Facebook, and they said the oil is not something that you're collecting. The oil is used for the light, and the light, when the light shines, you can see these things in front of you. And that's why some of us can see these things and some of us can't see any of it. The light's shining. We have oil. So keep your lamps full. Keep your lamp shining. Keep looking to the light and get people to look there with you. And maybe you'd be surprised. I've seen brand new Christians for 2 weeks find stuff in the Bible that just, the Holy Spirit gave it to them. So anyway, Repo Man 64. I'm going to go back and relax. I got to eat something, and we'll chat with you all later. Oops.